It all began on an unremarkable evening, a tranquil Saturday bathed in the faint light of a cozy living room. An old black and white movie danced across the TV screen, one of those French films where glances carry more weight than words, and silence speaks louder than any script. I hadn't orchestrated anything, hadn't even let my mind wander to such possibilities. Yet, when his fingers brushed mine by mistake, a fracture formed deep within me. Once that dormant piece of my soul stirred, there was no way to hush it again. I'm Emma, 45 years young. I've been tied to James for over 2 decades. We've raised 2 grown kids, juggle a mortgage, and live a life locked into a routine we stopped examining ages ago. He gets back from his job. I whip up dinner, we tidy the kitchen, flip on the television, scroll through our phones, hit the sack, and do it all again tomorrow. No arguments disrupt us, but no spark ignites us either. We just keep the gears turning. That's it, we exist. The sensation of being craved, truly seen, or touched had faded so far into the background that I'd forgotten its warmth until Ethan showed up. Ethan is 29, the son of my closest friend. I've known him since his elementary school days, when he'd dash around barefoot in the backyard and sneak cookies with a grin. Back then, he called me Miss Emma. That formality dropped a few years back, and now it's just Emma, a change that nudged something subtle in how we connected. He's grown into a tall, quiet, reflective man. Traits you rarely see in guys his age. There was always a softness to him, but now there's something more, a quiet intensity that lingers in the air. He picks up on small details, a new cardigan I wore or the exhaustion etched on my face. James hasn't noticed those things in years. That night, James had turned in early, his back flaring up again. Knocked out by muscle relaxers before 9 p.m., Ethan lingered after dinner. He mentioned his love for classic films, saying they harked back to an era when people locked eyes and meant every word they spoke. We sat close on the couch, like we had countless times before, but this time, the air between us crackled with something unspoken. His knee grazed mine, a fleeting accident. I didn't pull away. My eyes stayed glued to the screen, feigning focus on the movie, but all I could sense was the subtle pressure of his leg beside mine. Then his hand drifted, a gentle brush of fingers along my thigh. My whole body tensed, caught in a sudden stillness. I didn't glance at him, didn't utter a word. I just sat there, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. He didn't retract his hand, and I didn't push it away. His pinky curled slightly, grazing my skin. Then his palm opened, resting there as if inviting me to respond. My fingers gripped the blanket's edge tightly. My gaze stayed locked on the TV, but the images blurred into nothing. I was consumed by the warmth of his touch. In the quiet, his soft whisper broke through. "You okay?" I gave a small nod. That was all he needed. His hand settled more firmly on my leg, steady but not forceful, simply there. My skin tingled beneath his fingers. I parted my lips to speak, to say anything, but words failed me. Then his thumb traced a slow, intentional path across my thigh. My breath hitched, my muscles tightened, then softened. I didn't stop him, I didn't want to. His hand crept higher, warm, composed, and assured. I shifted just enough, my knees parting slightly. Suddenly, all the truths I'd fed myself for years, that I didn't crave this, that passion was for the young, that James and I had settled into a quiet harmony, felt like hollow excuses. Ethan kept his eyes on the screen, not meeting mine. His fingers slipped just beneath the hem of my shorts, moving with slow, warm precision. Couldn't catch my breath. A tremor ran through me, not from fear but from a sudden awakening, as if my body was rediscovering itself. Then he leaned closer, not for a kiss but to murmur, "I'll stop if you tell me to." I couldn't reply because I didn't want him to pause. I longed to feel alive, to be noticed, to be touched like I was significant. His touch was careful, reverent, as if he'd been waiting for this very moment. When I finally turned to him, I kissed him. It wasn't rehearsed or smooth, just raw, soft, and achingly real. His lips against mine felt like breaking the surface after years submerged. In that instant, I wasn't a wife or a mother, just a woman yearning to be desired. The TV flickered in the background, long ignored. We melted into each other on the couch, his hands moving with deliberate care, as if he sensed my needs before I could. My shirt shifted, his skin warm and vital against mine. My mind screamed, "Stop, speak, leave." But each time I tried to talk, his touch reminded me I was worth seeing. It wasn't hurried or chaotic. It was purposeful, hushed, and perilous. A noise echoed from downstairs. A creak, perhaps a pipe or the floor settling. We froze, his forehead pressed to mine. He whispered, "This isn't supposed to happen." I replied, "I know," but I kissed him again because the line had already been crossed. As the movie credits rolled, we sat in a heavy, entwined silence. I looked at him, his shirt rumpled, lips slightly flushed, eyes probing mine. "What's next?" I asked. He had no answer. The next morning, I stood in the kitchen, clutching an untouched mug of coffee. The bathroom door squeaked open. Ethan passed by silently, filling a glass with water at the sink and leaving it there, a quiet barrier between us. The tension, the memory, the stillness lingered. Days later, we brushed past each other in the laundry room, our hands meeting over the basket's handle. We both paused. He said, "I can't get it out of my head." I answered, "Neither can I." But we didn't let it happen again. It hadn't solved anything. It had only stirred something awake. I began securing the bedroom door each night, not to block Ethan out, but to cage myself in. I avoided lingering on the couch after meals and gave up on late-night films, yet the memory of his touch on my leg lingered. His soft whisper echoed in my mind, and the way his eyes saw me, truly saw me, made me feel visible again. A few evenings later, we found ourselves on the front porch steps. The sky shifted from golden hues to soft pink, one of those summer sunsets that casts a gentle glow, softening the edges of reality. Ethan sat a short distance away, not too close, not too far. He broke the silence, saying, "You've been awfully quiet these days." I responded, "I've been lost in thought." "Same here," he said quietly. I met his gaze and admitted, "I shouldn't have let that moment happen." He replied, "But it did happen." And I added, "And I didn't try to stop it." The air grew thick, a heavy silence that held no comfort, only weight. When he stood and walked off into the fading light, I didn't call out to him. I didn't even offer a farewell. I just watched as the dusk enveloped him. Inside, James was scrubbing dishes in the kitchen. I leaned against the doorway, a glass of wine cradled in my hand. He glanced over and asked, "You all right?" I gave a small nod. But I wasn't, because the hardest truth wasn't that it happened. The hardest truth was that I craved it.